T, do you want to do the intro?
I can't do it. Come on now. Come on. I can't do it as good as you.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother! Mother's good. Mother's good.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there today? It is yours truly, the Ace, here with a Power Rangers 2017 review. A lot of people have been asking me about this. A lot of people want to talk Power Rangers, so I figured I had to do it, and I had to do it big by bringing on some special guests. Before we get into it, I actually have to say, the reason why we're even doing this is actually because of Ryan. I didn't tell you this behind the scenes. I wanted to tell you in real time. When we were on Zach Milne's Talks Movies a while back, you had mentioned Power Rangers 2017 when you were trying to make a point on something else we were talking about. And I chimed in. I was like, man, I fucking love that movie. And I was like, I want to talk about it. So I was like, man, I got to do some sort of review. And since then, I've been talking about it. And I was like, man, I have to get Ryan on here because he was actually the inspiration to this. So we have Ryan Lane from Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I never knew that. I remember you talking about Power Rangers 2017 many moons ago, but I never realized that that was why you wanted to do this. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you for mentioning it. And I got my guy, Have You Seen That with T, recent mod of the daaceavenue too, man. How you doing, T?
You know what? I'm doing good. I watched the movie and it made me feel even better about this. I rewatched it, I mean.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Before we get into that, I need you guys introduction on how did you guys get introduced to the Power Rangers, not just Mighty Morphin, whenever you kind of came in, because you know there's a bunch of them. So when did you guys get introduced to the Power Rangers, and who is your favorite Power Ranger?
So how was I introduced? I don't know. I guess the same. I don't know. Personally, I remember growing up, I had like this one VHS of a Power Rangers one. I can't remember the name of it, but it was the one where they had that cool underwater base, and like,
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember which one it was though.
I don't know. I remember watching the heck out of it. Even my mom thought, "Okay, Ryan, maybe you should ease off a little bit here." I mean, I watched the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and plenty of other subsequent ones with Tommy, the Green Ranger, and I mean, again, I also remember, I don't know, I just kind of watch. It's all kind of a bit of a blur now at this point in my life. The one where there's wizards and magic, the one where there's a genie. It all kind of just sort of blurs together for me now.
That might have been a Turbo era, because they did have in the Power Rangers Turbo movie is when they had the genie running around, stuff like that. It's gone all over the place. Like started with Mighty Morphin, which was the original for me, stuff like that. But it has kind of gone all over the place. T, what about you? What was your introduction to Power? Oh, Ryan, also, who's your favorite Power Ranger? Do you have one?
I don't know. Again, like I said, it's been so long since I watched it. I remember when when 2017 came around and the film, I decided to look back at a top 10 list, and I remember watching clips and going, okay, nostalgia is a heck of a drug, I see.
Yeah. That it is.
So I am an old head. I was there at the very beginning when Mighty Morphin Power. Like I watched the first episode and I was completely hooked. Like I kept up with the Rangers through Turbo the movie. After the movie came out, I tried to keep up with the show, but by that time, I can't remember what year it was, but I guess I aged out of Power Rangers at that point. So my favorite Power Ranger would probably be the original Yellow Ranger, Trini. Like I'm big, like she's nobody's favorite Power Ranger, but I mean she's pretty easy on the eyes, as they say. As with the Pink Ranger, but I like, of course, everybody's go-to answer is Tommy, but I don't want to go with that one. That's my second favorite Power Ranger would be the Green Ranger. But I'll go with Trini, man. R.I.P.
Okay. Yeah. Mine is Tommy. It's plain and simple like that. Tommy is the GOAT of all Power Rangers, but Tommy is my GOAT. Like, since he came on the scene as the Green Ranger, I have this debate with one of my friends all the time, Josh Stallworth, who thinks Jason's the GOAT. And I'm like, bro, you can't be the GOAT when Tommy whooped your ass. But, I followed the Power Rangers, like, up until Power Rangers in Space, which is probably one of the best Power Rangers series, probably the best series. Kept up with the comic books. I would tell you guys this: if you guys like the adult type stuff with the Power Rangers, I would read the comics and I would get into the Shattered Grid comic books. That's a recommendation that I always recommend to somebody. It's like they take it's like a multiverse of Power Rangers, and it's a lot of carnage. It's death in there. Like, spoiler alert: Jason kills Tommy. Tommy kills Jason. I'm sorry, Tommy kills Jason in that.
I was about to say, that aged
Backwards,
well.
Yeah, so Tommy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just such a good arc based on what happened if Tommy would have stayed evil, and it's such a good comic arc. I would definitely recommend that to everybody. But we're gonna rewind to 2017. Superhero movies are all over the place. For me personally, you know what I'm saying, Power Rangers is near and dear to my heart. You're getting all these live action, even though all the Power Ranger movies have always been live action, but you're getting all these live action, Saturday morning cartoons brought to the big screen. Transformers is on the big screen. It's been out for a couple of years already. G.I. Joe also had a couple of movies. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was making a comeback. So in 2017, they announced that Lionsgate was going to be remaking a reboot of Power Rangers, the original. Me personally, I could not wait for it. I was all for it. Need to know what you guys' thoughts on it was in 2017. T, we'll start with you.
So my initial thought was, why are we doing this? Like, because by that point, I really was Power Rangers out. Like, they do on like season 15 to 16 of the show, and I didn't know where they were gonna go with it. Like, I didn't see the vision, as they say. And I think I was actually deployed during this time, so I know I didn't catch it in the theater. But I would have definitely gone and seen it in the theater had I been stateside and been able to go see it in the theater. But I had low expectations, honestly. And then of course hearing things like once it came out, I heard some negative things, and I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then one night caught it, changed my life.
Nice. Oh, well, that's a life-changing movie. Okay. Well, this one in particular it was a long time in between like the mainstay Power Ranger movies. Now you had the show movies, you know what I'm saying? But it's been a long time since Power Rangers came to the actual theater. We had the first one that we had Turbo, stuff like that. Obviously as kids, we watched them on VHS tapes, stuff like that. But it was a long time in between this, so I felt like it was due. Ryan, what'd you think about it?
So in 2017, I don't know, it just wasn't really on my radar. I mean, I remember catching like one clip of Colbert where Bryan Cranston went on in the Red Ranger costume and talked about how he did some voice work for the original series in the 90s. And, it was cool. But, when the film came out, there was not that great reception. I was just like, I don't know. I want to go see other things. I wasn't in my see anything and everything if it's inside of a movie theater type thing at the time.
Yeah. So it seems like for both of you guys, it didn't really grab your attention like it grabbed mine, because me being a huge Power Ranger fan, I'm like, yo, I couldn't wait to see it. I saw it multiple times in the theater. And I'm going to tell you this, I love this movie. Like, this movie to me is a good comfort movie. And I will always be upset at the fan base for not going out and overwhelmingly supporting this movie so that way we can get a sequel, because of things that we'll take a deep dive into it in a second. But the things that they were able to touch on in this movie absolutely hit for me. So many different tones than what we used to see from the campy original series, stuff like that. Because let's face it, it was made for kids. It was for kids, you know what I'm saying? And taking that's what it was for. This one right here, I felt like was such a good movie. So after you guys had originally seen it for the first time, give me your thoughts on the movie. Ryan, we'll start with you.
For me, I would say like it's got heart, but it's a little clunky in its storytelling. Certain it's got some exposition issues where it just clumsily states information the characters already know. The intersection between home life and Power Ranger life, it doesn't, like, the two never really intersect in an interesting manner, or at least as interesting as I would like them to be. But I still I enjoy the characters Mostly, the action scenes, they're good. They're nothing spectacular, but I like them. The CGI has aged well. Again, it's not all great, but it's still good for a 7-year-old movie now.
Well, yeah, it has been 7 years. It's been a long time.
So I was confused why everybody disliked the movie so much. Cause I remember once again, it was kind of a late night and I was like, man, let me just see what this is all about. And I was like, I'm a huge Elizabeth Banks fan. I don't know where it comes from. Like she just does it for me. And I'm not just talking about her looks. I'm talking about just all her roles because she plays so many different roles. She's done so many different things as far as writing, directing, and acting in movies. Like she's never one thing, right? So thinking of her as Rita Repulsa, like it would have never even crossed my mind, but she killed that. She nailed that role, and I was more impressed with how they did the teenage aspect of it. Like it wasn't just Saved by the Bell meets Power Rangers. It felt a lot like the Breakfast Club. Like that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of when I rewatched it. I was like, man, this is like the Breakfast Club with action, right? Because of the detention setting and just how those five come together. Unlike the TV show where they were all best friends, and it just felt like Saved by the Bell, in tights, So
Saved by
so
the Bell to save the world. Yep.
yeah, like I was just so surprised how negative people were on the movie, and it was like, man, did we watch the same movie? Because I enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. Is it perfect? No, but like no movie is really, like, especially a movie about teenage Power Rangers. Like you're not. It's not going to be Saving Private Ryan. It's going to be what it is. So I just was really pleasantly surprised on how it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And it's, it didn't make a lot in the box office. You know what I'm saying? The support wasn't there. I think it really only ultimately made about 30 something million dollars, considering it had a budget of almost 100 million, and it only boxed office 142. So that's not a lot, especially considering you got big names in here. Bryan Cranston was a big name at the time, coming off of Breaking Bad. Elizabeth Banks has also made a name for herself. You know what I'm saying? So you have to kind of go young with the cast. You know what I'm saying? Like Naomi Scott, first time appearance for her. Since then, she's been Princess Jasmine. Becky G was probably the biggest name of this, the Yellow Ranger, because she's really big into music in the Latin community. So she's probably the biggest name. But for me, like I said, I'm right there with you, T. I don't understand the support that this movie does not get, because for the story it's trying to tell, I think it's very, very solid, especially considering like what it came from. This is a complete 180, and it starts with the cast. You know what I'm saying? In 93, they said teenagers with attitude, right? But these teenagers back in the, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers didn't have attitude. They're out there do-gooders, you know what I'm saying, doing good in the community, stuff like that. This movie actually takes troubled teens with all home problems. Each of them have their own problems, and they come together at the end of the day to actually be a team, and it's a lot more darker tone. So as far as they actually took the teenagers with attitude, and they did a good job on that as far as I'm concerned, and it was such a good, like I said, is it perfect? No, it has its flaws, but to me it's such a good movie, and I really do wish it would have got more support.
For sure. I think one of the biggest issues was the tone shifts. So as I was rewatching, I was like, man, this is completely different from the original, right? So when you think of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, once again, you think of these bubbly, teenagers who are just like have a perfect life, and they're all other than Tommy, right? Tommy is supposed to be the one from wrong side of the tracks, but the rest of them were just these perfect teenagers who all danced and sang, like they did all of the things, like
karate, gymnastics. Yeah,
yes,
they're good kids.
Like,
yeah.
Diving.
Yeah, they did everything right. But I just remember rewatching the movie. I was like, man, this is so different. So I could understand where the disconnect is between some of the original OG fans who are now older, who are my age now, right, and want that lighthearted. They wanted to see real putties, right? They didn't want to see, what we saw, which to me was better. But I can understand the disconnect between the original fans and this movie, because for something we did, like what movies did in the aughts, as they say, everything was darker. And I had to look up when Man of Steel was made, because everybody had to take this like dark turn to like our superheroes. Like it had to be a little more grittier. And I think by that point people were kind of wanting something more upbeat. That's the only thing I could think of was a sign of the times how everything was just gritty. Everything had to be dark. And the Power Rangers, people wanted bubbly, right? People wanted something that would be a comfort watch for them. And I don't think this was a little uncomfortable because of the tones that they set with these teenagers.
Oh yeah, of course. Like, and especially like the problems they went through. They all, Jason being like like a rebel, stuff like that in here. Kimberly going through her school problems, being bullied, which was like the worst bullying ever. She really didn't get bullied, like for real from those girls. That was like really bad bullying.
No.
Then you had Billy, who they actually switched up the character, you know what I'm saying, and gave him autism, you know what I'm saying. He was on the spectrum on that. That's a different touch. You got Trini, who is dealing with home problems with being, homosexual, you know what I'm saying. I do wish that they would have touched base more on that instead of just like what Ryan was saying with the exposition. Instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm you have boyfriend problems, no, I have girlfriend problems type stuff. I wish they would have dove more into that, like show us instead of telling us. And then you got Zach, who's dealing with his mom being sick, stuff like that. So they definitely add so many different layers and more darker tones to these characters. And it starts with the beginning. Like, we see the one thing that I love about this movie, it expands on the lore from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in ways that they never really explained. Like, picking up from the beginning, you're seeing Zordon as the Red Ranger. You're seeing Rita as the Green Ranger. You're seeing, that's such a great touch, especially considering that Tommy would later on go to start off being evil, stuff like that. So it makes sense why she had that. The biggest thing I loved about this movie, they explained why in a big world of Earth, why Rita would constantly attack this one city in Angel Grove. Because, like, as kids, we didn't think nothing of it. You know what I'm saying? We're just like, okay, they're attacking the city. You would have thought Angel Grove was the whole world. But they finally, with the Zeo crystals, which they would do, later on in the show, Zeo crystals, we finally got to see why she kept sending monsters after monsters after monsters to this city. So it was such a good touch that they actually expanded on it. Ryan, what do you think about all that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you put it that way, and you're right. I never did think about, like, why are you so interested in Angel Grove? It's like, is there some oil down there that you want? Well, I guess not quite. There's a, crystal. Okay. All right. Yeah, nice touch. And I don't know, personally, the whole thing, I think earlier one of you guys mentioned Saving Private Ryan. That's kind of what my thoughts went to with, like, the opening, because I don't think we've talked about this much, but Dean Israelite, I think his name was, as his direction goes harder than it needed to with this movie. Like, just the opening alone, seeing like through the reflection of the visor and just him crawling through the mud and a Yellow Ranger dying right before his eyes, I was like, okay, we're not messing around. All right, wow, okay, talk about a way to open up your movie here.
Yeah, and then they actually use, I like when movies use real life events to kind of in their movies, like the asteroid coming down and destroying the dinosaurs. Yeah. They actually used that to kind of defeat Rita. And it made sense, and then they kind of touched base on it a little bit more. They expanded on it. They're like, well, the reason why the Zords are dinosaurs is because they take form of the most powerful creatures on Earth at the time. So it's like this movie does a good job at expanding the lore of Power Rangers in a way that we've never seen.
Very true. Like when it didn't even, once again, I didn't catch that on the original watch, once probably because I watched the original years ago. But I thought that was pretty genius, right? Because it was like, why are the Zords going to be dinosaurs? That makes no sense. But from the storytelling aspect, it did. And Ryan, you are right. This movie came in hot, right? Like it was like from the beginning, it just said, this is not the Power Rangers that you knew growing up. This is something totally different. We got to see Bryan Cranston and like the Yellow Ranger die right in front of you. So it's like there's stakes at this. And I thought that was done really well, making sure you knew that there were real stakes, right? Like, hey, one of y'all could die. Like Alpha 5 kept saying that, like, yeah, like you could die. If you don't morph, you're gonna die, right? Like, or you could die, right? Rita is not playing, and she wasn't. Like it was I really thought this was done well. Like how they set it up,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And like you said, it came in hot from the jump, and it kind of set the tone. And darker tones, dude, they killed a Power Ranger in this movie. It's as simple as that. Like, I mean, he came back to life,
Yeah.
but they set the tone early throughout this movie. All right, so we kind of talked about our overall thoughts, and we kind of mixed in a couple of things. But what is it that you guys really, really enjoyed about this film? Ryan, we'll start with you.
I would say for the most part, the cast, again, I'll touch on this later. Their material isn't quite great all around, but I would say they have good chemistry with each other. They have like organic reasons to actually want to hang out with, well, not want to, but like the way they're all brought together is organic for the most part. Again, I'll touch on that later. I like all the actors. I'd say of all the quintet, they're good. Bryan Cranston as Zordon's fun. The little wall effect is nice. And Elizabeth Banks, against all writing expertise, she shouldn't work. Like, again, as you said, this film is going like ultra hard dark. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Banks is literally chewing the scenery. And yet it still works. She manages to be both hilarious and intimidating at the same time. I enjoyed her performance. The action scenes, again, they're nothing spectacular, but they're good. And the visuals are imaginative, like when they're going down into the cave through the water and the whole effect with them coming out of it. That's good. And like I said, the direction, like what the camera work and Dean Israelite's direction, again, he went harder than he needed to. He really elevated some of the material, like the opening scene where, the high school prank goes wrong and they have to haul ass away, like just the camera spinning inside the car. Like a traditional director would have just stuck the camera outside the vehicle and done a standard car chase. No harm, no foul. But again, the director went above and beyond for that particular action scene.
Yeah, I'm agree with you, and also add on, that one scene where they got hit by the train, and you kind of see it slow motion upside down. Like the cinematography went well, and and this is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
In a movie, like, let's be real for a second. This movie took a long time to actually Power Ranger, because they didn't get their suits until the last third of the movie, right? But it rode great cinematography, great character dynamics, great character storytelling, and you really feel the team camaraderie. And I'm also add to what Ryan said, Bill Hader knocked it out the park too as Alpha 5.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Different colors, different kids, different colored kids.
he added such, like, the comedic timing for him. He hit all the beats, in my opinion, because like this movie's not supposed to be funny. They chose to go dark tones, but when it decides to actually hit the jokes, in my opinion, I always laugh when I go back and rewatch these. I'm like, okay, it definitely worked.
I enjoyed the teenage high school dynamic. Like I said, it's like The Breakfast Club, which is, if you've never seen The Breakfast Club, go watch The Breakfast Club. It's such a great movie. And that's all I kept thinking about as I was watching this movie. It's like, man, like it's these 5 different characters, right? And they weren't friends, right? And they were together a lot of it because they were attracted to each other. I thought that was pretty funny. How all of them were like this super young, attractive people who just like that. That's is that the way it works? Like only the good looking people get the superpowers.
Only in Hollywood.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it was like, I just thought it was like Becky G is like the quiet girl. I was like, Becky G is gorgeous. Like who's like how did nobody in the school notice her? Like
Right?
you couldn't walk around anonymously looking like that. So
Same thing with Kimberly, where she cut her hair to like nice hair. I'm like, her hair does look nice. Like, what are you talking about? Her hair looks better than yours. Like, and that's what I'm saying. It's bad bullying. It really is. But it tries to tell, say like, and that stuff right there is a little bit forced, but it works overall.
But that's the one thing I did like. I liked, like, because like you said, they didn't turn into Power Rangers to the very end, but like there was a story building up to it. Like they had to become a team, right? It should not just work in the first 10 minutes. Oh, look, it's morphin' time, which is one of my biggest gripes of the movie, was that we didn't actually get to see.
It's morphin' time.
Them throw.
Oh, you want that? But see, we'll talk about that later, because we'll talk about like some things that won't translate well to the big screen. But go ahead, continue your point.
But yeah, that just my biggest, like the teenage aspect of it, like the interaction of the characters, how they came together. Like all of them had these different issues, which I mean is a bit much, right? Like you got these 5 characters and all of them are going through these like really life altering issues within their lives, and maybe that's what make them Rangers, is because they're not perfect. So So that was the main thing I loved. I enjoyed the interaction. And like you said, this is a really good cast. Like looking back on it now, Naomi Scott, she's really coming into her own. Smile 2's coming out. RJ Cyler, he still looks the same, which I think is really funny because he was in The Harder They Fall and he looked even younger in The Harder They Fall than he did in this movie. I don't Dacre Montgomery. I don't
Dacre
or
Montgomery. Yeah.
Dacre Montgomery. I don't remember seeing him in anything else. I know Ludi Lynn has been in a few other movies, but
He's in Mortal Kombat.
yeah, let's not talk about that. let's stay positive.
But
but yeah,
he did look like Luke. He did look like Liu Kang, though. He did have the look for it.
He did. But they were all just really good actors. They all really did well in this movie. So that was the main thing I took away from it. I enjoyed the actual live action portion of it.
But yeah, the cast is definitely at the forefront. Do you guys feel like Bryan Cranston? It's just so weird to have an actor of his caliber as just a face. Like, do you guys feel like that was a little bit weird? Because like it was. I mean, obviously we saw him in the beginning as the Red Ranger, but to pay an actor of his caliber, he didn't really have to be on set. To be honest with you, he could have just did all his voice work from home. What did you guys think about Bryan Cranston?
I think it was probably just him because he said he did voice work on it, early in the Power Rangers. So it probably was just him like paying homage, like it's something to help him get his break. I'm pretty sure he got a nice check from it. So, I mean, like you said, he could do it from home. And all he is doing is really adding gravity to the movie, right? Like just kind of like what he did with Godzilla, right? He was all over the credits for that, but he ended up not, doing too much, which might be a mainstay of his career, just getting paid for a good 20 minutes of screen time. But
Hey,
go ahead.
Beetlejuice had like less than 20 minutes and like of actual screen time, and he was iconic. So
exactly. So I mean, I didn't think too much of it because I just know that he was playing Zordon. You didn't really need somebody, but it helped. It should have helped the movie more than it did. Really, having somebody of his fame, of his stature, in this film.
Yeah, he's got the voice for it. The voice sounded sounded on point. Definitely. Yeah. And I like the dynamic of, what I'm saying, because he knew they weren't ready. And then the one scene where he's like, you know what, let's just get me out of the morphin grid. I can stop Rita when he already failed. And the pushback from Jason, you wouldn't have seen that in the original Power Rangers. You wouldn't have seen Jason tell Zordon, your team failed. This is my team. Like I said, the character dynamic is just at the forefront of this movie, especially that campfire scene. That was the one scene where me personally, when it comes to movies, I like the becoming of the hero moment. You know what I'm saying? Like when Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man, when Miles Morales jumps off, the leap of faith. Love it when the heroes become the heroes. And this is where they truly became a team. Now, you had some pushback from Kimberly who didn't want to, talk about her end until she was alone with Jason. But it was when they finally became vulnerable is when they were able to connect with each other to the morphing grid. And that's what they were pushing the entire time. You know what I'm saying? And little things like, they actually had, they were pretty much superheroes in this one, for real. And they reiterated that a couple times throughout this one. The morphin grid didn't just give them their powers; they had the powers from the coins and stuff like that. But that moment of the campfire scene, though, was absolutely incredible. You seeing all of them come around and just shed all their insecurities. Like, like my mom died. My mom is about to die. I don't want to go home because I'm afraid she's not going to be there. You have Billy talking about, I miss my dad, but when I'm with you guys, I don't miss him so much. Trini's like, you know what? I can't talk to nobody. You guys are the only people I'm talking to that I'm telling that I'm homosexual. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So the fact that they let down their guard is when they were actually able to actually get their armor on. And it was just such a good touch.
It was. In the Jason arc, like him and his dad, I really resonate. That really resonated with me. The relationship he had with his dad, because his dad, like, they put so much pressure on him, and I see that a lot, like, with these young athletes and stuff like that. You put so much pressure on them to be the one, to save your family, to get out of here and go do great things. But like, if it's not in you, it wasn't in you. He was a leader. He just didn't know how to be it, man. Like, and I really appreciated that part of the movie when it comes to his arc. was he was just being forced and he wasn't ready. Like he simply wasn't ready. And it took, him actually finding a bond with other friends, with the quote unquote family to make sure he was ready to actually be a leader and go out there and save the world pretty much.
I mean, again, with regards to the family dynamic, I enjoyed it. I would say the campfire scene, I enjoyed it. Again, like 3/5 of it, like Kimberly, Billy, and Jason. I enjoyed them. The other two, I don't know. It's again, they're right. Their characterization is just not quite there for me to like fully give it the rubber stamp of approval.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. All right, so that's a good transition. What didn't you guys really enjoy? Because this movie's good. This movie's really good. Like every Power Ranger fan I talked to was like, "Yo, I love this movie. I wish it had a sequel." But they, it is very flawed. To me, some of the things that didn't work, and this is what we talked about earlier, some of the things wouldn't have translated well like they did for the TV show. Like the biggest issue that everybody has is Goldar.
Make my monster grow.
In this movie, like a big golden booger blob in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though in the Power Rangers movie we saw Ivan Ooze sort of like that, but it didn't work for this because, like, I liked it. I think it was an interesting direction they took because I don't think a flying golden monkey would have worked like they did in the actual TV show. So it was a very interesting direction that they took. And then, like I said, some of my issues with this is, like I said, it did take a long time to actually Power Ranger, but they chose to focus on the characters instead of actually the Power Rangers. I think this movie maybe could have benefited, well, one, from a sequel, because then we could have actually seen more action.
Yeah.
But then maybe about 20 more minutes. You know what I'm saying? 20 more minutes of action would have been good because outside of the training montage, we didn't get to really see too much action throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was all put towards the end. But then when it hits the end is when it's all coming at you. You have Power by Kanye playing. You have all this intense action sequences. So the last 30 minutes kind of makes up for the entire movie. But it does take a while to actually Power Ranger. So, T, is there anything that you didn't really enjoy about this?
Ironically, what I didn't enjoy about the movie was them actually Power Rangering. Like that was probably the weakest portion of the movie to me because the action just wasn't that great once it actually popped on. And this is from a rewatch. When I rewatched, I was like, man, I want more of the Breakfast Club. I don't want because it just didn't work for me. I don't know why. It wasn't. It might be because I've seen so much better action since then. But the action, it would have definitely better served to have a sequel. Like this movie was perfectly, of course, with the mid-credit scene, perfectly set up for awesome sequel where right at the beginning you get to see them morph and just jump straight into kicking behind. Right, I would have loved to see the direction they took, but that just was the weakest part for me. Like you said, Goldar. It's really hard to create a Titan in a grounded movie and have it look believable and have it make sense because it's such a grounded movie. And it's Power Rangers. I would have loved to see Goldar following her the whole movie and she made him grow. Like I would have loved to him be the comic relief and just been in the background like he was in the original show, just being the idiot, right? And she just like roasting him the whole time. That actually would have made me laugh. But they didn't go that route. So that unfortunately the Power Rangers portion of the movie towards the end is what kind of didn't lose me, but it was the weakest part of the movie to me.
Yeah. Let me ask something though. On that note, do you think the action sequences could have benefited from a bigger budget? Because it was a lot of cuts. Because like I said, you got to pay these actors. Bryan Cranston probably got a lot. Elizabeth Banks, for what it's worth, probably got a lot too. It didn't have a huge budget. I think with a bigger budget, me personally, I think with a bigger budget, it probably could have had better action sequences. And that's why, maybe if it would have had a sequel, the action sequences in the sequel would have been better. What do you guys think about that?
For sure. I completely agree with that.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, again, even in 2017 dollars, $100 million is, at least in blockbuster money, is a small amount of change to work with. So yeah, perhaps a little bit more money, not too much. We're not talking like Marvel. We have enough money to be the GDP of a small country, but like 25 million. Like, bring it up to like I don't know, the Uncharted movie budget, perhaps.
Yeah, because with small budget, like I said, I was reading some stuff behind the scenes because we only got to see one Power Ranger weapon, and that was Jason's sword come out of his arm, which was very creative, with the armor and stuff like that. Which is another thing that a lot of people got backlash about. Like a lot of people were criticizing about how they looked. Right, me personally, I didn't have a problem with it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is my thing about it. If you would have came out in 2017 in spandex and helmets, you can't tell me that people wouldn't have criticized the shit out of it. They would have been like, it's 2017. How are you having them look like they're this and that? It's terrible. Even in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, they looked metallic and they had armor. I like the fact that they went the armor route.
Oh! Okay, now that's cool.
Now, do they look like a bunch of mini Iron Men? Yes, of course they do. But it's like, what did you expect? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it worked for 2017. What did you guys think about their actual, armor? What did you guys think about that?
Well, again, like I said, in the very opening sequence, when you see, all the destruction reflected in the visor, the helmet, it looks great. And again, I can't tell the difference between, when it's CG versus when it's, an actual suit. Like, the hallway sequence, it's I didn't have okay, wow, that's some nice CGI there. But no, again, the armor looks good. Again, of all the problems I got with this movie, the armor ain't one of them.
Yeah. T, before we go back to Ryan with what he didn't like about this movie, what did you think about their armor?
I thought it was fine. Like you said, they did look like a bunch of mini Iron Men, but there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see a huge issue with that, especially with the budget that they had. Like I said, with the budget, I think we got pretty good Power Ranger suits,
Yeah, I like it. And then Ryan had mentioned a couple times with the visor being able to open up, and because even towards the latter half of the film, when you have these actors, and this is why, I'm actually surprised in Deadpool and Wolverine that they kept Ryan Reynolds behind the mask the majority of the time. Usually when you're paying these actors, you don't want to keep them behind the mask 24/7, even when they're at that. But the fact that the visors are able to open up, you're still able to see these actors' faces, when they're in the, Zords and stuff like that. Ryan, so you had touched a little bit on things that you didn't like here and there. So you want to elaborate a little more into that?
Yeah, sure. I guess for starters, the storytelling, it's clunky. There are certain moments where characters will be talking. There will be oh, you're the person that so-and-so. I was like, okay, I think the audience already knows that. She already knows that. So why are you saying this? And that kind of moment pops up with enough consistency throughout the runtime. There are certain moments, again, I don't know, the writing just feels like untapped potential. At one point, Zordon says, do not use your powers for selfish reasons, and it's kind of just a throwaway line. I would have thought, because there are certain moments where it looks like in prior drafts they touched on that. For example, Billy, the Blue Ranger, the poor kid gets bullied, and at one point, when he accidentally knocks his bully out cold, you see him glowing with his friends. I told him to not come at me, but then I said, come at me, bro. Again, you see him he's enjoying his moment. Again, this doesn't need to go full The Boys where everyone is just an impure, selfish jerk with powers, but maybe a little bit of dark side would have been nice. Maybe see Billy get into a little bit of a dark edge, or maybe Zach. I don't know. It just. Yeah, I guess also the characters, namely Trini and Zach. I didn't really get into them as much as the other Rangers. Trini, again, I don't know why she was at that mine. The other three characters, Kimberly was there because she likes to dive. Billy was there because his dad used to take him there. And Scott was there because, Billy helped him get that little ankle monitor off and he was going to get a car. Yeah. For them, Zach, even he, I don't know, he's an adrenaline junkie, breaking into places, get that high. Okay, makes sense. Trini, she's an outsider? Question mark. And even then, like you said, it's she's played by Becky. It's not working. Yeah. What else? Yeah, I guess also just some of the acting performances overall. I touched on it, how like Elizabeth Banks, she's chewing the scenery up over the top and it works. But weirdly enough, that doesn't work for other characters. Like Jason's dad, like at one point when Jason's being brought to school for detention and his dad is just grilling him and ripping him a new one. It's like, I don't know, it just felt like over the top in his delivery. Same goes for like Trini's mom when, Trini's like, oh, I'm a superhero now. And she's like, all right, pee in the cup. Like, I don't know, it just, and the family life, I don't know, I would have liked a little bit more. Like at one point, the car gets totaled and just nothing comes of it. Like, I feel like they were trying to build up with like the cops, maybe arresting one of the Power Rangers or figuring out that Jason had snipped off his ankle monitor. Like, wouldn't that have been interesting to see, like him in jail, he and his dad have like this big yelling out and there's like an emotional climax to the characters? But no, it's like, I mean, do you know how hard it is to lose a car? Like, again, there's a license plate on that. I don't know.
Yeah, that stuff, I get it. You know what I'm saying? That stuff is definitely things that, you can take a deep dive into. It's a lot of those things. Like you said, the ankle bracelet. Because then once the ankle bracelet came off, it was just gone. Like, he didn't need it again. Like, did his time expire or did Billy keep it there? But like I said, what Ryan had alluded to earlier, it's a couple things where they definitely expositioned the hell out of this. Because like I said, it was with the scene with him and his dad. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't you have thought he would have already gotten that scolding? But they did that for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, show us it at the point in time. You know what I'm saying? Don't just give us a bunch of exposition. And as far as what Ryan was saying with Zordon and the rules, I just took that as, them reiterating the Power Rangers rules that they touch on. And, you know what I'm saying? Which is another thing that they built on in this movie, where Zordon just basically saying you can't use your powers for personal gain. You can't escalate a fight. That's why a reason why the Power Rangers never just come out Zord first. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are like, why don't they just go into the Zords immediately? You can't until, the villains escalated. And then, you can't, reveal your identity, stuff like that. That's kind of what I took that on. But this movie is very flawed, but it's still very fun at the same time too. Bucks Raised Bolts, thanks for popping in. We're excited for a new Power Rangers movie. They're supposed to be redoing another one. Me personally, because of how much I would like a sequel to this, it's going to be hard for me to accept another movie where I'm like, bro, we're always going to have this one-off. And it's just always going to be something that's on the back of my mind. What would you guys think? Which direction would you guys have gone for a sequel to this movie?
I mean, they set it up for Tommy, the mid-credit scene, they just set it up for Tommy. I think coming out, guns blazing, very beginning of the movie, big, huge Power Rangers fight, right? And then, because Rita got pimp slapped into another dimension, which was hilarious.
She got pimp slapped to the moon, which goes to the moon base, her moon base, which is,
man. Which funny joke, harking back to the beginning of it. Did you just slap her? Hilarious. But somebody finds the green coin, somewhere else, and then Tommy comes in and does all of the goes against all of the rules, because he is truly from the other side of the tracks, right? Like the bad kid, and just go that route, right? And even don't even have a redemption arc at the end of the movie. Let him end that movie bad, because the Green Ranger arc went a whole bunch of episodes, right? He was a real bad guy, right? And you can't do it without him playing a flute at least one time. If you don't play that flute, it didn't happen, right? So that has to be in there somewhere. I would have definitely made it more personal for them, having a younger character who kind of upends the apple cart. Like, they think he's going to be a teammate, but then he ends up not being. He ends up being, the bad guy. I think that would have been a really good way, with a bigger budget, to have bigger fights. It was right there for him. It's a little too late now. I don't think it can happen, at least not with those actors now. Really too late for that, but I mean, what could have been?
Yeah, of course, in the What If universe. Look, I would love nothing more for this video to go viral, and then all of a sudden Lionsgate to be like, maybe we should bring back those Power Rangers movie. And all they got to do is just give us a role, put all three of us in the movie, give us a short scene like what they did with Tommy and Kimberly's cameo, and like
Man,
that was
was
good.
great.
That was good. If you would have seen it in theaters, I'm gonna tell you this: that was a standing ovation. That was a standing ovation moment seeing them in that role, and I was like, bro, rest in peace, Jason David Frank. But that was just such a great moment. What I would have done for a sequel, I like where you touched on because it adds more depth to it. I would have probably kept it a little more simple. I would have went the Green Candle route where, because my biggest thing is at first I would have brought back Rita, Elizabeth Banks, because first of all, she was amazing. The problem with some of these movies is we don't really get instant reoccurring villains. You know what I'm saying? Like in Transformers, we see Megatron come back and back, stuff like that. But, like in the MCU, sometimes we don't even see the same villains over and over, which is weird because, the same villains are always there. I would have immediately brought back Rita and then had her, since she already had the green coin, you know what I'm saying? I would have had her pick Tommy, you know what I'm saying? Just very similar to it. I would have had him be the antagonist for about 3/4 of the movie and then come together like they kind of did in the show and defeat her. And then you tease Lord Zed at the end to give us a third movie and then a trilogy. And that's how you ended right there. Would have been dope. Ryan, what do you think? What route would you have gone sequel wise? If even at all?
I think I would have done a direct sequel because I remember the summer of 2017 was a pretty rough season for blockbusters. I remember there was like a 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie that bombed. There was a Baywatch movie that bombed. There was a Chips movie and that bombed. And I remember there was like Transformers Age of Extinction. Oh, The Last Night. Yeah, The Last Night. And I heard that was awful. It made over $600 million. So, like, again, like I said, I don't think I enjoyed the Power Rangers 2017 movie nearly as much as you guys did. But I have literally seen worse movies make more money, and I feel like Power Rangers could have deserved to make maybe not a lot more money, another $100 million, enough to say, okay, all right, we made money, we made profit, but we gotta buckle down the writers' room and really like take care of this. And I feel like they had enough potential. They had room to grow with the characters. They could have, they had the table setting out of the way. They didn't need to exposit as hard with the second movie. They could have, there have been worser franchises started from better movies. Like, they had something they could have done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But like T was saying, what could have been? We'll never know. All right, so we're gonna be wrapping this up here soon. I gotta know, like I said, I introduced a new segment on my channel when I do my reviews of movies I've already seen, called My Favorite Part. Because like I said, as a kid, every time I left these movies, I was always jazzed up, like, yo, what's your favorite part? I want to know. So I gotta know, what is you guys' favorite part of this film? T, we'll start with you.
I'm thinking probably when he slapped the bully at the beginning. And before I end that, not having Bulk and Skull in this movie, kind of upset me. Because the bully, I was like, man, is that Bulk? Is that Skull? And then they said his name was like Trevor or something, whatever it was. It didn't matter what his name was, but it wasn't Bulk and Skull.
Yeah,
that was a missed opportunity. Like that could have been your comic relief, like Bulk and Skull somewhere as the bullies in school who got beat up by by Billy. But when he got slapped, that was probably my favorite part of the movie because he just slapped the taste out of his mouth.
And then they came back later with the same joke with Rita.
Yes, with the same
it hit.
joke.
And it hit. What about you, Ryan? Do you have a favorite part?
I would say my favorite part is a tie. It's a tie between the cold open with like just everything being absolutely demolished and people and Zordon saying the lines, the whole team is dead. Like, oof, we're getting some Halo Reach vibes here. And the other favorite part, like the car chase out of the high school, like with the camera in the car, like him driving, spinning around and be like, okay, all right, I'm going to make it. And then it flipping over. And I was like, whoa, that's a pretty intense car crash for a type of movie like this. So yeah, it's kind of between those two moments. I don't want to say like I didn't enjoy everything else, like it was just downhill. But those are like my two standout visual moments for me.
Did you have a favorite funny part though? Was there anything that really made you laugh?
The bull joke. I'm sorry, the bull joke.
The bull joke in the beginning.
Yeah.
He's talking about a milk tit, talking about it's a man, it's a male.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
that was unexpected. I didn't expect that from a Power Rangers movie, but yeah, it like I said, it hit on some of the jokes to me. My favorite funny part was when they all jump in the water for the first time and the crystals are like illuminating the water around them, and they're all like they're saying their colors, and Zach, who is the Asian Black Power Ranger, he's like, I'm black. Billy's like, what? He's like, I am. He's like, no, you're not.
Which I thought was funny is like, how do you see black in the water?
In the water with
Yeah,
no
yeah,
light.
It was really
exactly.
blue water,
Yeah,
It
was. It was, but that scene had
That
me
was
weak.
funny.
The
That was
one at
funny.
the end where he was like, "It's a Mamazord," you know what I'm saying? He's like, "No, a Megazord." Like Billy was the comic relief in this one. Like, I'm saying it was a good touch, and then, like I said, it brought the team together when I'm saying he died. But my overall favorite part of this film was right after Billy's death, and also the Krispy Kreme jokes were hilarious too. Like the Krispy Kreme
Man.
jokes were hilarious.
We gotta go to Krispy Kreme, Jason. What? Not for donuts.
Like they just the product placement with that, where when Rita was like, where's the crystal? He's like, it's Krispy Kreme. Talking about it's a dining establishment. So she's talking about it must be a great place. Like, oh, okay, Krispy Kreme. Like you're out here giving yourself a reach around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That was
Krispy
hilarious.
That was pretty funny.
How much money do you think they paid for that? Like, what,
Man.
10% of the movie's budget? Like,
Probably. And then that
Probably.
scene where she's eating the Krispy Kreme donut when Goldar's destroying it. That right there was a good scene because like I love it when movies just cut out all the like you're in the middle of these big action, the music's going, and you just cut out to like no sound and she's just eating a donut like,
Yeah.
like this is pretty
that's
good.
right. This is good. A great
Exactly.
establishment.
But like I said, my all-time, my favorite part, my absolute favorite part of this movie though, is when they come together finally in the ship, right? Zordon just brought Billy back to life, and they're circling that platform one by one, each person touching the platform. Kimberly, Zach, Billy, Trini, and then Jason just walks on the platform, gives one last look around to everybody, and says those three iconic words.
It's morphin' time.
That sequence, like Ryan was talking about, cinematography was beautiful. That sequence of the armor up, where you seeing all these different cuts and you're seeing it like slowly go on them, it's like it was just so epic. And the reason why he pulled it off, Daycur pulled it off perfectly. T wants that. But see, that's that dude. I don't think that would have translated. That's one of the things I talked about. I don't think it's morphin' time would have translated like all over the top. But the way he said it, just stepped on the platform slowly, looked around, is like, this is my team. It's morphin' time. He looks down, looks back up. I was like, chills. Then them walking through the corridor after it fades to black with the like the techno music or whatever going off in the background, just that slow walk scene. Boy, that is my favorite part of this movie, easily.
Yeah, no, it worked for that movie. But man, like the nostalgic part of me is like, come on, man, just give it just one time for me, man. Just like hit him with the.
So you would have wanted to see the Dino Transformers and everything, the Dino Morphers and everything, huh?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm a nostalgia bait nerd, man. I love nostalgic touches, right? But that was a really good scene. Like, I just enjoyed this movie, man, for what it was, right? Like you guys have pointed out really good flaws, really good points of like parts that could have been better, but I mean, for what we got, like, it's a Power Rangers movie. Like, like if you watch the first Power Rangers movie, that movie is terrible, but I love it. Like I love every second.
Those ninja scenes were so fire, though.
Yes, like the fight scenes were dope, man. I was like, this is good. Like, this is a good time at the theater, man. Not the best movie in the world, but I had a great time.
Do you wish you would have saw it in theaters?
Which one?
The 2017. You said you saw it late,
I do.
right?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it late. I really do, because I mean, I love to support movies like this, man. Like I feel like people pick what they want to support for whatever reason, and part of it could have been like how they changed their stories. And I think movies like this need to be supported. I mean, we support stuff. We supported Morbius, man. Like you could like.
Twice.
Yeah, like those movies made more money than this movie, which is insane to me. Like that just makes no sense. So, like, I
Yeah.
definitely would have, wanted to have an opportunity to support it in the theater.
Yeah. Ryan, let me get your final thoughts before we get out of here. Your overall thoughts.
It's got clunky storytelling, but it's got heart where it counts. The acting is all around good for the most part. I like the action. It's decent. The humor is pretty solid, especially for a film going for a more grittier approach. Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
No, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, I don't think it like deserved to make a lot of money. I don't think it deserved like $1 billion, but maybe 200 million. More than what it got.
Yeah, just enough for it to, warrant the talks about, a sequel, because they kind of like instantly like scrapped this one. But overall, like I said, this is, this movie, I love this movie. I think it hits on everything that I expect from a 2017 Power Rangers movie. Like, is it perfect? No, but it's not trying to be that. It's trying to tell a good story based around these troubled teenagers, that are truly teenagers with attitude that come together to ultimately save not just their city but the world. And that's something that a Power Ranger fan, like, since day one, like myself, can appreciate. And every time I watch this movie, I'm fully engaged. It's not one of these movies that I put on and I just have it in the background. I'm avidly watching it, and I'm like, wow, like every moment still hits for me like it's the first time watching it in the theaters. Like I said, we're going to the theater, like it was, a lot of clapping moments, stuff like that, because there were a lot of Power Ranger fans in there. Like Jason and Kimberly coming out on the cameo was amazing as well. The Megazord, like I said, the Megazord was cool. The Megazord was cool. It was cool for what it was worth. What do you expect? What do you expect from that? You don't, not gonna expect anything super over the top or super intricate, but this movie does its job for me, and I always recommend this movie, and I will always cross my fingers and hoping somehow, some way that we will get a sequel. But like I said, I love this Power Rangers movie. But look, man, I do appreciate you guys for popping in here and taking the time to join me. T, I believe this is your second time on the channel. Ryan, this is your first time on the channel. I want to thank you both. Thank you to all the members that popped in and said what's up. A couple of people did ask. We did answer the questions already earlier as far as what our favorite Power Rangers were, and we just talked about our favorite parts. So make sure you go back to that on a rewatch. But appreciate you guys, man. Ryan, tell them where they can find you at.
You can find me on YouTube and Letterboxd at Movie Reviews with Ryan Lane.
Okay. T, what about you?
All right, you can find me on my YouTube channel. Have you seen that with T? I just dropped my Alien Romulus review. And yeah, definitely check me out. I will be definitely, what is coming out next week? Oh man, there's a big movie coming out next week that I'm looking forward to.
Don't blink, blink twice. I think
that is
blink
yes. Channing Tatum. Been waiting all my life for this, guys. Been waiting all my life for this. Like,
You about to make a name for yourself?
I'm about to make a name for myself. Man.
You've been waiting your whole life to go to a strange island with a billionaire?
Yes. But yeah, you could definitely check me out at Have You Seen That with T. And I'm also on Letterboxd at Have You Seen That.
Okay. Appreciate you guys. And make sure, their links to the channels will be in the description when the video drops live. You guys are the best, man. Like I said, would love to have you guys on again. And for those that don't know, I'm yours truly, the Ace. You can find me here at the Ace Avenue for your sports, movies, and more. Got to get back into my Fox watch, man. I've been falling behind on that. Deadpool Wolverine was great. Just did that. Want to do more group reviews just like this, because this was absolutely incredible and such a fun time, and I appreciate you both. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe to all 3 channels and show that support, especially if you're a big-time Power Ranger fan just like us. Appreciate you guys. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Ace Avenue. I am yours truly, the Ace. Adios.